Today I'm taking you back to November 2nd, 2012. I've got a portrait booth set up backstage at a TV benefit to photograph celebrities like Tina Fey, Jon Stewart, Steven Tyler, and Jon Bon Jovi. This is From the Vault. Hey, my name is David Bergman. I've been a working pro photographer for 30 years now, mostly specializing in music and sports photography. Each week on this series, I'm going to take a look back at some of my well-known and some of my lesser-known photographs, and I'm going to do the best I can to tell you the story behind the scenes of how I made the images. I'm also making signed fine art prints available of the images every week. You can check those out at davidbergmanphoto.com. All right, so it's late October 2012, and Hurricane Sandy had wreaked havoc in the US and a bunch of other countries, actually affected about 8 countries by the time it was done. I live in New York City, and this area was hit really badly. New York, New Jersey got hit on Monday, October 29th. There was a lot of destruction out on Long Island, and down the Jersey coast got hit really badly. Manhattan itself, lower Manhattan was flooded. Manhattan's unusual in that a lot of the power lines and the telephone lines and all that are actually underground instead of over. Out in the streets, and because of the flooding, we lost power. The lower Manhattan all was without power, and it was pretty intense. A lot of people were affected. There was a lot of loss of life around the country, unfortunately, and it was pretty horrible. So I actually wasn't here when it happened. I was on a plane that particular day from Detroit to San Francisco. I was covering the Tigers-Giants World Series for MLB.com, and I was flying back to California to cover the championship parade. That was on Wednesday. The storm hit Monday. I covered it on Wednesday. I came home on Thursday, and then by Friday, NBC had actually organized a televised benefit concert, and they were going to host that in their New York City studios in Rockefeller Center. Now, fortunately for me, I had covered the London Olympics for NBC earlier that year over the summer, and I had some connections with NBC. So as soon as I heard they were going to do this, I immediately got on phone and email and whatever I had to do and I pitched them to let me come in and make portraits of any of the celebrities that were there to help raise money for the benefit. It took a little talking, a little coercion, whatever I had to do. Convincing is probably a better word, but they somehow agreed to it, and last minute I got word to come on down there and do it. So when I got there, they just had to find a room for me where I could set up some lights. And the room that they gave me was, I think it was the wardrobe room. There was like sewing materials all over the place, and it was a tiny, tiny little space just down the hall from where the green rooms, where the dressing rooms were. So I wanted to be close so that it was easy for the celebrities to get down there and come be photographed. So for lighting, I wanted to keep it pretty simple. At that time, I was doing a lot of magazine band portraits, and I was my style was very sort of intense, a lot of hard light, gels on the strobes with red and blue colors, really, really hardcore stuff for a lot of these bands that I had been photographing. But for this, I felt like it was more important to go simple and soft, kind of a less is more approach, especially since I wasn't going to have a whole lot of time with each celebrity, and I wanted to be able to get them in and out. I didn't want to have to worry about too much gear giving me trouble. So I brought my own backdrop, and then the lighting I brought at that time, I was shooting with a Dynalite system. So I had a 1,000 watt second power pack with 2 heads coming out of it. One of them I put in a large softbox on camera right, and then on my left side, I pointed the other one. They actually happened to have had a white sheet of some kind hanging over some of the equipment that was in that room. It was probably just to protect it because maybe they figured people would be coming in there. So it worked out perfectly for me. I just bounced the other head right off that white sheet, powered down a little bit just as a fill for the left side of these portraits. I really was only going to have enough space to do individual people. So before I was doing that, as everybody was starting to come in, I was wandering in the hallway there, and, everybody was gathering and talking to each other. So I made a couple of just quick grab group shots. This one was really fun with Jon Bon Jovi, Steven Tyler, Bruce Springsteen, and Whoopi Goldberg. I thought that was a really cool grouping of people to have together. And then at one point, Billy Joel with his fellow band members, Mark Rivera and Tommy Burns, they were just like singing. I think they were singing a cappella. I think one of them was playing the triangle or something. And Jimmy Fallon came over and joined them. And they just had a nice little jam backstage, which was super cool to kind of be a fly on the wall for something like that happening. So that was, I was just kind of trying to ingratiate myself, get people used to me being around so they'd be comfortable in front of the camera. Luckily, because Jon Bon Jovi was there, I'm Bon Jovi's tour photographer, and so we have a relationship. I was able to get him to come down. He was my first sort of guinea pig for the actual portrait shoots. I really wanted to get people in and out of there quickly, but having Jon in there first really helped. As far as settings, I was using 85mm lens. I was at 2/50th of a second because, of course, that's the maximum flash sync speed. I didn't have high-speed sync back then, not on that old Dynalite system. So I'm at 2/50th of a second at f16 at 100 ISO. So the other thing I like to do with a shoot like this is I had a feeling I was going to make these black and white or sepia, something along those lines. So what I did was I used the picture style settings in the camera to actually have the image on the back of the camera when I show it on that screen. When I show it to the artist or whoever I'm photographing, it's going to look somewhat like how I envision it being done in the end. So I switched the picture style over to a black and white or maybe even the sepia setting so that they could see it the same way I was seeing it in my head. The reality is I'm shooting RAW files, so I'm still gonna have a full color image to work with, and I can more carefully do that black and white conversion in the computer. I use a program called Silver Effects Pro. It's by far the best plugin to make black and white conversions. It looks as much like film as anything I've ever seen. So if you're interested in checking out that software, I'll put a link to that down below, but it's called Silver Effects Pro. So after I photographed Jon Bon Jovi, then I had to convince anybody else to come down there. It's not like they were contractually obligated to sit in front of my lens. So I just had to, try to talk people into walking down the hallway. It was maybe a 20-second, 15-second walk down that hallway. So the ones that agreed to do it, not all did, but the ones that did, I figured out quickly that I had to make a connection with them very quickly, like on that walk as the two of us would be walking down that hallway, because I knew when I got them in front of the camera, I was gonna, I was telling them it's only gonna be 1 minute, right? That was kind of my pitch. It's just gonna be 1 minute. Also, having the Jon Bon Jovi photograph helped for the first one because I could show them, oh, Mr. Bon Jovi did it, and so then they kind of felt like, all right, it's this guy's cool, and they could see the picture and they knew that I had some idea what I was doing. So but as I walked down that hallway, I knew that as soon as they got in front of the lens, they were only going to be there for, if I said a minute and I was done in 30 seconds, even better, right? So I was maybe shooting 10, 15, 20 frames of each person. So because I wasn't going to have a lot of time, I really had to connect with them and do whatever I could with each person individually because everybody's different and they're going to react to different things. There's a great story about this technique of really learning to read people and work with them. Really great portrait photographer Platon has a fantastic story about getting Vladimir Putin to relax by talking about Paul McCartney. And it was kind of the only thing that he could find to connect with Putin to make him relax a little bit more than the sort of look he usually has in photographs. It's a great story. If you want to check out Platon himself telling that story, I will put a link down below to that YouTube video of him telling the story. So now these people are not, Putin, but fantastic celebrities, all really famous people. And anybody that I got to go down there, the first one was Whoopi Goldberg. She was amazing. She couldn't have been funnier. I was trying to make her laugh as we walked down that hallway. Humor obviously works really well for portraiture. If that's your style, right? That's the kind of look you want. She's obviously a comedian. She's really funny, really sweet. Real laughter just comes out better in a still photograph than a fake smile, right? And the thing about these celebrities have their look, like they know how they look in front of the lens, and they don't necessarily want to loosen up. And they want to give the look that they have worked on over the image that they've worked on. So So that's part of what I'm doing, is trying to get them to loosen up, be comfortable, and then make that picture all within the span of 30 seconds or a minute. So I also got Billy Joel to come down there. That was super fun. Personally, that was exciting for me. My brother's a piano player, and I got to tell Billy that about the intensity of waking up in the morning, hearing my brother working on that beginning of Angry Young Man, which, if you know the song, the beginning is pretty intense. And so I got to talk to Billy about that, which was super fun. Al Roker came down. He's a character. He is no problem in front of the lens. He does that all the time. He knows exactly how to work it. Tina Fey couldn't have been sweeter. I'm a big fan of Tina Fey, so she was fun to have in front of the lens. Something that I think, this is public information, this is not a secret, but she's got a scar on the right side of her face, and I actually didn't know that, and I guess I had never really paid attention to it. I should have known, but I asked her to turn to the right a little bit, and she goes, "Oh, I'm going to go to the left because of the scar." And I was like, "Oh, right, of course, no problem." I felt bad about that, but she obviously is super cool with it. She's on TV all the time, so she knows how to deal with it, and so that was great. Jon Stewart, he seemed so humble to me. He was still hosting The Daily Show at the time. So I don't remember exactly what I said to get the look out of him, but I think that his personality comes through a little bit in this photograph. And then Mary J. Blige, she is such an amazing performer. The way I tried to connect with her was, I was actually the tour photographer for Lilith in 2010 when Sarah McLachlan brought Lilith back in 2010. And let me tell you, when Mary J. performs Stairway to Heaven live, every night, after the first night when I photographed it, then every night on the rest of that tour when she was out, I just had to put my cameras down and just watch, because she leaves it all out on the stage. And she was just a ball of sweat at the end of that song, because it just all came out of her. And it was so intense and so fun that it was a joy to watch every night on that tour when she was out. So I was able to share that with her. And I think like that might have maybe loosened her up just a little bit. And then lastly, the guys from Aerosmith were there. Bradley Whitford is just super cool. I mean, what a great look on that guy. And then Joe Perry, I think his hair in black and white looks awesome, because that contrast, you got the white against the dark. And then of course, Steven Tyler. He knows how to work the camera. I really didn't have to do much with him at all. Pretty much every frame, he was giving me a different expression. He was moving. He gave me profiles. He just did whatever, anything. I basically just sat back and let him do his thing and just snapped away. So no direction needed at all. What did I learn from a shoot like this? Well, really, these kind of portraits, portraits in general are all about human connection, right? Human connection is the most important thing. You don't need to have 8 lights with gels and smoke machines to make a portrait that connects with people. There's definitely a time and a place for that kind of photography. I still do it occasionally, but it's not always needed. They say that the eyes are the window to the soul, and I'm not sure I ever understood really exactly what that meant until this shoot. By stripping away sort of all the other distractions and trying to get the artists away from their look, their preconceived look, their planned look that they like, allows me to maybe get a little bit deeper. And in some cases, I think it worked, and some it didn't. But with such a short amount of time, you do what you can to make those portraits. So thanks NBC for allowing me to do that. All the celebrities who gave their time to allow me to make their portraits. Remember, I am offering prints of my images for this one. I'm going to pick my favorite one of each person and make that available at davidbergmanphoto.com. They are 11 by 14 fine art gallery matte prints. I'm going to sign each one, and I date them as well. And again, you can check that out at davidbergmanphoto.com. My plan for the show is to have at least one print available each week as I do this series. So I hope you'll come back and check those out. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate it. Come back next time for a new story behind the scenes from the vault.